We are live.
Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. This is day 2 of 10 years of EAT celebrations with Chinmay and myself, Marv. Today is a bit of a creator special where we're going to be talking about what it means to build communities and to tell narratives in Web3. So we have two folks who are among the best in the biz at this. We have Humpty from Crypto Sapiens with one of the greatest newsletters that we have for Web3 marketers. And we have Adrian, one half of the GM Farcaster podcast, who channels the culture of Web3 onto the airwaves. I'm absolutely grateful for Adrian and Anish Prof for being that, finger on the pulse of what's happening in the crypto space. And between Adrian and Humpty, you folks are in for an absolute treat. Say hi to my co-host as well, Chinmay from basket.farm. And yeah, we'd love to get the ball rolling. Let's start with Humpty. Humpty, could you tell us a little bit about your experience in the space? You bring a very detail-oriented look to the way things go, a very results-based thing. So, could you tell us a little bit about your background and how you acquired these skills that you're now deploying in Web3?
Oh, that's a very kind introduction. That's probably the best thing anybody's said to me in a long time. So I appreciate that. Thanks so much also for inviting me up here. I've been following all of your work for a long time, and it's really cool to be paired up next to Adrian, who is a superstar in their own right as well. Yeah, I mean, so I could confidently say that I've been a creator, at least when it comes to content, for almost 20 years. One of the things that I did early in my creator journey, if you will, is I was working with Tastemade. Tastemade today is very different from what Tastemade launched as a startup many, many years ago. It was initially built as a platform for communities to come together around food. And one of the tasks that I had was to build this community in LA of foodies who were familiar maybe with another platform where you review these restaurants that you go to. But our tagline was raves, not reviews. And I was creating a lot of content around foods and people's food journey in the city of LA. And in fact, that was one of the first things my wife and I did while we were dating. So we were creating content together. So it's really interesting also to see our journey, very early on that is preserved on the internet. From there, I have continued to, explore the world of, creator and creator tooling. But in 2016, when I came into crypto, I came by way of Tron. So I know that we're talking about Ethereum here today as well. But my first entry into Ethereum was an EVM chain, which was Tron. And we built a lot of interesting tooling and platforms and community there as well. And eventually made my way onto Ethereum mainnet in 2020. And I haven't looked back. I've continued to build upwards in the stack with Base and Optimism as well, and on some of the social platforms like Farcaster that are being built on it.
Amazing. And speaking of Farcaster, one of the queens of Farcaster themselves is on this broadcast. I present to you Adrian from GM Farcaster. Adrian, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself, about how you got into Farcaster and how you managed to create the biggest podcast on Farcaster?
Yeah, first and only, maybe, Farcaster specific podcast. I let's see, I found Farcaster in late 22, probably about a year after really getting into the Ethereum world. Probably discovered blockchains in like 2016, 17, 18, but as a concept. I was working in kind of enterprise SaaS world, and it was like, hey, here's this new disruptive technology. Go figure out how to incorporate it into the enterprise space. And I had always been just curious about technologies. So I remember trying to learn about blockchain and really just like struggling. Just fundamentally, I found it so like different than anything I'd ever learned before. And was also surprised to see like how slow it was for enterprises to adopt. I know now it's because like enterprises have no use for a blockchain. Like there's no benefit to an enterprise in it. So I kind of see that now. But anyway, so I think it was like probably like many others, 21, kind of the NFT craze. I was like, I was just so curious. And hearing from like I remember kind of getting introduced through podcasts and hearing like Chris Dixon, Balaji, Naval, like just talking about Ethereum. Like, and I understood Bitcoin's use case. And I remember hearing about Ethereum as kind of the world computer. It was like, oh, it's a blockchain. So it has all the same characteristics, immutability, and permissionless, global, except you could build on top of it. So like my software engineering background just kind of was like, oh, that's really interesting. What is that all about? So I just kind of like, you just wanted to explore like anything you could just try. I was kind of picking up. And I remember just hearing about Farcaster on Twitter and DM Dan for an invite and joined in. It was really quiet in 2022, I'd say. Like it felt like maybe 100 people would be casting a week, but it just felt like group chat vibes. So I just loved it. I really enjoyed meeting people early on and kind of just got hooked and created a habit.
Wow.
Farcaster had it's like all builder energy. So it was just people making things. A lot of like developers, but also just like writers, bloggers, artists. And I loved it. I met my co-founder, Nounish Prof, at the first FarCon, which is like the first Farcaster user community meetup in Boston in 22. 70 people traveled on a weekend to meet internet strangers. And
amazing.
She and I met. And then like 2 months later, she like pinged me and was like, hey, how do you feel about starting a morning talk show about Farcaster? We both had other jobs at the time. So she tricked me and she's like, do you drink coffee? Yeah, I drink coffee. Okay. Do you wake up early? Yeah. So she's like, just show up on a Zoom meeting. Like we'll go join a Google Meet. We'll drink your coffee and we'll just talk about Farcaster. And you don't have to leave your other job. Like it's additive. And we started doing it. And we've been doing it 3 times a week since September 23. We've done over 250 episodes.
Wow.
And
that's consistency.
Yeah, but it's fun. Like it's been so much fun. So we just jump on, so we live stream all Farcaster news and here we are.
So I just want to add a couple of points there, right? Like I have seen Adrian casting / like streaming GM Farcaster from like all different kind of places. Like she has done a live one at Farcast, like Farcon. There was one in the base camp and base held that in like on the top of the mountain. But the commitment and making sure that, hey, if my viewers are ready, I'm gonna show up. That's a solid commitment. Like right now we are trying to host this 50 episodes for the birthday, and it's a lot of work, and you have been doing it consistently for a long amount of time. So I just want to like pinpoint how amazing that is and hard to pull off.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the consistency while also tapping into this culture, because we're in Web3 and we don't realize how insular almost it is. Like what really, really, really matters to us only really matters to kind of a few of us. And Adrian and Nounish Prof really address this culture in a way that there's also a bit of an information lag, right? Someone might just be talking about a few cryptic words that they're tweeting, and they just sort of weave this story together and they catch you up on, oh yeah, this happened, and this is why you should care. And I think the storytelling aspect within Web3 is really important, especially outside of our little bubble. And both of you are addressing this in your own ways. And what motivated you to simplify this message in this way rather than just talking to the same folks again and again within what we believe is a really it's an echo chamber that sort of eggs us on to keep building. So Humpty, what made you choose this avenue specifically?
Yeah, so in 2020, gosh, it just feels like so long ago, but definitely over almost 4 years ago, I took on this route of creating content to make crypto more accessible for the masses, right? Because, and like Adrian, she was talking about like how they learned about crypto was through podcasts. For me, it was actually quite different. It was through meetups, but it was at these meetups that I went in my local city that I learned about the technology from people who didn't sit there and just talk about jargon, and try to sound smarter than me by using this jargon, and kind of to differentiate themselves. Instead, they met me where I was in terms of my understanding of technology and crypto. And it was because of that I got the confidence to learn and just keep growing in the ecosystem, right? And become a founder and create the content that I have and host the events that I've had over the last couple of years. So that's kind of was the genesis of Crypto Sapiens, with that idea. And what started as a podcast eventually became an accelerator, and we helped other creators learn how to create content and put it out, especially on chain, and monetize that content too. And in 2024, I realized that when I was talking to the masses, I was actually talking to no one. And so I started to refine the idea or the group of people that I was communicating with. And so I realized that as someone who was a creator myself, I should solve my own problems. And so I set out to understand what on-chain media was, firstly, because it was still pretty new then. There was few builders who were building in the space of on-chain media. And then to understand what discovery and monetization is on-chain, and more importantly, what viral loops exist on-chain. And what I found out was that there are ways to increase the discovery and monetization of your content. And so in 25, I said, how do I enable other creators like me who might already be on chain too, to do the same thing I have, to hack the system for their benefit, if you will. And so we've done this now, not just through the content that we create, but also through in-person experiences. And so at Denver, we launched the proof of concept, which was the On-Chain Creator Summit. I was very excited to have, Nanish Prof there and so many other people participate and speak to an audience about what creators can do on chain. And then we took the next step forward. And in New York during FarCon, we launched the On-Chain Creator House, which was more of a hands-on approach, more of a curated experience to get creators involved with these applications, get them to connect with the builders of these applications. Coinbase Wallet launched their beta with us. We had Rodeo there. We had so many other partners as well that wanted to participate in this experience to help promote on-chain media and the usage of on-chain media. So that's kind of how Crypto Sapiens has evolved, and how I see this continuing to grow in the future, and the impact that we make as well.
Yeah, that's a great set of insights. And I think for some folks, the extent of their understanding of on-chain media seems to end maybe at NFTs. But even NFTs themselves are such a deep, deep, deep rabbit hole. So Adrian, could you give us a bit of an overview of what you believe on-chain media has been until now and how it's changing going forward?
How much time do you have?
As much as you want.
I was just thinking, Humpty,
day.
when you're talking about, like, you just said something, though. It's like when you're trying to talk to everyone, how hard it is. And kind of more of your questions making me feel like the question's so big, I don't know how to answer it. For GM Farcaster, we always said we wanted to be what we called on-chain first. And that was like very much in the beginning, which was, you can get all of our content on all the Web2 platforms because that's where people are. But we really wanted to not just talk about new technology, but be the ones using it, forming it, kind of creating it. So what that meant for us in the beginning, when we launched GM Farcaster, was one, all of our episodes were going to be NFTs. And we've used different platforms for that in the beginning, but they're all NFTs on Base. We were first streaming on a platform called Unlonely that was experimenting with live streaming and certain token integrations. And over time, we've had to kind of change our different tooling because it comes and goes. But our newsletters are on Paragraph, not Substack, because, and so for us, it's about just being a participant and actually using what's available. I think when you talk about, like, what does it mean? I don't know what it means to be on chain. I mean, you can, for content, I mean, to me, it means you have to have something that's on a blockchain. like great.
Mhm.
But I can talk a little bit about why and maybe some of the
I was
benefits.
about to go in the same discussion. Yeah, perfect. That would be perfect. Please jump in.
Okay. For like one of the biggest benefits or one of the promises of Onchain is this idea of like direct connection between creators and the audience. And you can kind of cut out the middleman or the platform. And the critique of Web 2 platforms is that the Web 2 platforms take all the, too high of a take rate. You don't own your relationship. You're too kind of subservient to the platform rules. And the promise is, like, oh, we're releasing our episodes as NFTs. People can purchase them and own them. What does that actually give you, and what does that mean? And it's not super clear, but I think one of the benefits that I really like is just that you're signaling, like your audience, if they're buying an NFT of an episode, they're signaling, it's a public because it's all open, right? It's an open data store. They're signaling, this is my interest. This is the community I align with. And then because that's open, you can do all sorts of analytics to see, okay, well, people who like Jam Farcaster, what other podcasts are they into? Oh, and you can do partnerships and collaborations with other shows, with other media companies, with other communities. One, you can see who's naturally, like where there's overlap just based on who's kind of holding different episodes. But then the other thing is also kind of we do permissionless promotions. So people have, just by holding like a Jam Farcaster episode, other companies will drop, either airdrops or promotions to people based on like kind of what you're holding. So it's just like the whole analytics aspect of like information and data is all open and available to anyone, not just like us as the creators or the audience, but anyone.
So both of our guests today actually have a presence on Pods, which Pods is a Web3 based podcasting platform. And just to fill in the newcomers to the stream, so we're running 10 weeks of celebrating Ethereum's 10th birthday. So we're going to have a whole bunch of creator and builder focused chats just like this. Today is a bit of a creator special with Humpty from Crypto Sapiens and Adrian from GM Farcaster. These are both leading publications in their own right in different sectors of the on-chain media system. And we need creators to build value on top of what the infrastructure the builders are putting in place, because I think this sort of stuff sparks joy and it gets people coming back into the platforms and exploring their true capabilities. You are seeing two of the biggest experimenters of this new on-chain space right now, and they've really tried out a whole bunch of things. I also have a podcast on Pods called Is This the New Internet? And it's really refreshing to see how we can reach folks outside of Web 2 podcasting platforms for some reason, and they can pay you directly from day one. I know so many podcasters through my local scene over here who have not monetized after years and years of podcasting. Yes, for me, I have a fairly small podcast. It's a modest amount, but both Adrian and Humpty, they are able to really create a genuine income stream using this. So, Humpty, I know your newsletter really gears towards teaching people these tools. Do we have any guides that you have that you can probably give us a very simple 3-step process of how one of our listeners might be able to leverage something they already have to make the most of these on-chain earning tools that you talk about on your platform?
Sure. I also wanted to add in terms of what distribution means to me. Excuse me, let me make sure I plug in my laptop because I just saw that I got a notice and I don't want to accidentally rug y'all. It'd be horrible. But yeah, in terms of like what on-chain media means to me is distribution. So one of the things you were talking about earlier in terms of NFTs being kind of this OG media primitive, I think it's wonderful. I think it's still doing a lot of great things. In fact, a lot of platforms that we use like Pods leverage NFTs. But what's different is the distribution. The audience is being built around these platforms. So like at pods.media, people are going there to consume their content like podcasts, right? On something like Zora, even, you can argue that people are going in there to get memes. Right? It's sure, it's a marketplace for memes, but at the end of the day, it's like, what is the stickiest, what is the more interesting form of content? It's going to rise to the top. The market's going to dictate what the value of that is based on, the attention economy. So for me, it's about distribution. These platforms are all kind of building towards a very specific niche interest in terms of like the way that they distribute this content. And of course, monetization should follow after that. In terms of like my recommendations, man, I don't know if it's something as simple as 3 things, because it really depends about like what type of content you're creating. Are you a writer? Are you an illustrator? Are you a podcaster? Are you a video, creator, shorts creator? There's so many different platforms you can get started. But the first thing, and honestly, I did this yesterday at the LA Bitcoin pizza party, is I was onboarding people to Farcaster. I was using the few free invites I have left to bring people onto Farcaster. And why? Because in my opinion, there are, and maybe it's not my opinion, maybe it's just fact, but there are several layers to on-chain media. The first one is the infra layer, right? Which is Ethereum. And on top of that, there's Base. And on top of that, there's Farcaster. And so all of these things allow for the usage of something that, to be fair, like Ethereum can be very complicated in a much simpler way. Like social is super simple, right? So if I bring people onto Farcaster, I think I'm bringing them onto Ethereum, right? In one way or another, I'm connected to the mother chain. But as they come into Farcaster, as I did with one of the people that I, kind of casted about yesterday, they feel welcome, and they can start building a connection with people like them, right? So that would be my first step. The next step is to understand what type of media they're creating. And in fact, I know this young lady who I spoke to yesterday. She does a lot of short form content on Instagram. So my goal is to try to see how we can take that short form content from Instagram, maybe to Rodeo, right? Because I think that that's probably the most performant and parallel to what she's familiar with. And then that would increase that distribution and monetization, and then kind of engaging her community, her audience on Farcaster as well. So that's probably how I would get started, is really bring you onto Farcaster, understand kind of what content you're creating, and then point you to the best platform for it, and then promote the hell out of you, because I'm not going to bring you to Farcaster for you to fail. That's for sure.
Fair. So I have one question, a follow up. Like, I would love to hear some hacks, some stories of your experiments that you ran. And you know what? This experiment worked really well, or this experiment, I was expecting too much and it fall flat. And we all, as a marketer, as content creators, run into those issues. And I would love to get 1 or 2 stories out of both of you. Say, do this, don't do this, before we move on to the next section.
I'm going to have to charge you, okay? Because this is going to make you a lot of money.
I'll send you some botnet money.
Adrian, do you want to go first? I can go after you.
Do you have one in mind?
Oh, absolutely. I
Yeah,
hacked
go
the
for
system last year. So in fact, I was talking about this with the folks that I was meeting yesterday, right? And I was giving them this example. And so a good example is I was on pause.media and I was getting short attention, but I wasn't monetizing that attention. So I started to explore alongside, and this is not just like look at Humpty, he did all this by himself. Like, there was a group of people who were interested in the same problem. Lucas, the founder of Pods, being one of them. David, not David, excuse me, Adam Levy, who's the Mint Mint podcast creator. Anywho, there's a few of us that took an interest in this, and what we realized is if you apply incentives at the right point of distribution, there is an increase in attention where there's an opportunity to monetize that attention. And so how I did it is I took some of the OP that I had gotten from a retro PGF from Optimism for creating content on Optimism, and I used that to create a set of incentives that accelerated the distribution at the point of minting. So after I had minted something, I put those incentives, and it was able to get the first 100 mints on that, which then increased the likelihood of other people finding it on platforms like Daylight and Mint.fun, which eventually allowed it to become visible on something like Coinbase Wallet. And if you think of each of these platforms as windows into the blockchain, each of them has a different group of people looking into these windows. And the people who are looking into these windows are collecting content for a variety of reasons. So if you're able to present your content to different audiences through these incentives, you are able to, with a higher likelihood, monetize that content to tens, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars as well.
So, like, let me repeat what you said. Like, so you got some grant money from Optimism, which is Ethereum L2, in order to create content for Optimism. And so it's not really you were working for it, it's just that you built something, you apply for a grant. I don't know what the number was, but like say it's like maybe a couple $1,000 in Optimism token. And from there, you use that money, put that back into the machine, and then we're able to get more than just a dollar out of it, dollar for dollar out of it.
Correct. You're not
okay.
putting in the full amount of whatever you're going to earn, but you definitely have to put sufficient funding or incentives attached to it so that it becomes attractive for that first group of people who are going to collect the content. So you're almost giving them like a rebate and a different token for spending on your content.
Gotcha. Yeah. And each mint is probably like 7 cents, 10 cents or something. And you're just saying, hey, if I find you see this in like, if you mint this content in like next 24 hours, I'll run a script and give you that money back as an Optimism token, whatever the prices are. And so who wrote the script for you? Like, did you write it yourself? The reason I'm asking is there are lots of listeners who may know how to write code or some may not have write code.
You don't have to
I know
the
some
code.
tools, but I want to know yours.
That's the beauty of, on-chain media. And again, this is what differentiates on-chain media, is the fact that there are composable systems that are being built around similar products. So on pods, I could leverage things like layer 3 and boost in order to apply that first set of incentives.
Oh, that's amazing.
But now on pods, Lucas and his team have built in this functionality by sponsoring your posts, right? So they saw the value of what we were experimenting with last year so that everyone can have access to directly on the platform.
And in true Web3 attitudes, the sponsoring is permissionless. So you can sponsor your friend's podcast episode if you like, and you don't need to ask your friend about it. You can just say, hey, by the way, I just threw a little bit your way. Please, I hope this benefits you. Like, we're embracing the openness of all this. And Adrian, do you have any similar stories of your experiences within this on-chain media world?
Yeah, I mean, I think just to recognize that monetizing content is hard. Number one, like I don't recommend going into content creation because you don't do it for the money. And for the people who can do it for the money, like it takes a long time to get there, I think. I don't know. Are there overnight successes? I don't think so. So there's still, like for GM Farcaster, we try to diversify our revenue streams as much as possible. So we still have the traditional like sponsor route, like you're still kind of working with corporate sponsors, let's say, who want to get in front of a Farcaster audience. So we work together, but that's not guaranteed every month. We don't always have it. So how do we diversify? So we're using Hypersub, which is a on-chain membership. So it's like a Patreon. I call it the NPR model. We have like you don't have to pay for, like our content is free. It is everywhere. You do not have to pay for our content, but there are audiences and fans and friends of ours that watch our show regularly and they want to support. So for a small amount, it's like for a cup of coffee a month, it's like $10 a month or something. People will subscribe, and we have people who have subscribed for 2 years. Like they pay, and it's like hey, I want to do it. So we're super appreciative of that. We have the mints and whatnot. So we try to just kind of diversify. And then there's the be everywhere as much as you can. It's like hard to spend too much time on other platforms, but the beauty of like, yes, GM Farcaster, I kind of identify that's our job. That's what we do. We do love it. Yep. But then there's me, just Adrian on Farcaster. And I don't identify as a creator. Like I'm just me. It's just me as a person. And I like to share. Like I cast a lot. I blog, I publish on Paragraph. Like you could make the argument I'm a creator, but whatever. I just don't necessarily identify that way. But just being active on Farcaster and there's just I've earned so much money over 2 years, and I think with the embedded wallet, with all the mini apps now, with support for different chains, like I think, and we're seeing, I just think there's so many more ways to start to monetize just being on social, and kind of, and then kind of the line between yourself and your content and how you monetize tends to get a little blurry.
That's very interesting what you mentioned, because it's not about what it allows, like on-chain media allows is think beyond the traditional sponsorship model. Don't think from the sponsorship, like Humpty just gave us an idea on the grant idea. You can just reach out to different L1, L2s and then say, hey, if I create this content, I can create content for you and come up with those partnerships. But also what you mentioned, Adrian, is very important that, hey, because of this podcast, I'm more known. Because of that, I'm part of more airdrops. I'm part of more whenever the new tokens are basically doing some kind of distribution or some marketing. Because of that, you're just in the front of the line, and because of that, like sometimes it hits a home run. Like I don't think it's a reliable income source, but it has been good for the last 12 to 24 months.
Yeah, you just want to diversify, like have lots of different chances. And then I think because Farcaster is on crypto rails, and we're seeing this, it's super easy to integrate transactions into social feed. So
Love it.
I don't think like launching a clanker every day is going to be sustainable, right? Just like you can't drop an NFT every day, but there's ways, if you're keyed in, right, to kind of take attention, like monetize on attention for a certain period of time. We just, so like, I don't know, we did on our birthday, like we celebrated our birthday and we put out like, hey, here, we'll just do a birthday NFT. And we'll charge for it. We'll charge a few bucks for it. Why not? And people want to celebrate. So it's like, that can be like a one-time revenue for like, you get it on that one day. Great. But it's easy to do.
That's very interesting. I just want to bring up like one broadcast to Farcaster naming change happened, and somebody created a POAP out of it, and it's like a $3 each to mint that POAP, and all the money goes to Purple DAO. And I've been a recipient of a grant from Purple DAO, like a one each to host a party in Toronto. So I think these are new mechanisms that people are experimenting, and I just want to bring it up. Sorry, Mark, please take over.
And that happened today, right? That was literally today. Like you can go and people are happy. It's like all microtransactions. And I think like it's hard to see now to say like, oh, this is it. We're here. We've figured it all out. Great. But if you're comparing it to what exists, like there's no way to monetize on Twitter.
No, you're absolutely right.
You're doing the intention anyway. You're sharing. So just by having, it's just there's new mechanisms, and I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, something Farcaster specific that you mentioned that I think really helps with this idea of supporting creators and supporting an economy is the Farcaster rewards that go out every week. Because I think for a lot of us, you're on there, you're having a good time, you get paid to contribute to the mind share on that space. And then you get a whole bunch of money that you can use to just support creators who you like directly within the app. So I think they've really found a good way to nudge people into using the services. And then you can just see where people's interests lie. So I'd like to use this to actually touch on the topic of mindshare a little bit more, because we've seen a few apps like Kaito and Cookies coming out where we are quantifying the manner in which our storytelling is taking hold on the internet. What do you think about this movement? Is this the start of something big in us actually being able to quantify what we as creators are adding to the system? Or is there something else at play? Humpty or Adrian, whoever feels ready to answer that, you can go for it first.
Well, I heard you talk about Cookies and Kaito, and I want to recognize the people who are building it on Farcaster, which is Amps and Noise. I think that it is interesting to see that attention is being, it's almost like attention is a primitive on its own, and people are trying to build tooling for attention. One thing that you also mentioned was this idea that there are ways to earn just by being active on Farcaster, right? Either Farcaster themselves are going to be rewarding you, or through a series of other airdrops, you're likely also going to earn some rewards. And personally, I just like reinvest that back into the platform. So if I get an airdrop of one token and I don't necessarily think that I'm going to have a lot of use for it, I just normally just swap it now with the Warplet as well, or whatever it's going to end up being called now that it's not Warpcaster. And I've converted to USDC. And what do I do with that USDC? When I cast something that I know needs a little bit more attention, especially because algorithms, this isn't just true for Twitter or YouTube, it's true for Farcaster, it's true for Base. The more attention you can get to something early, the more likelihood that the discovery mechanism is going to be turned on for it and more people are going to see it. So if you cast something that you want more people to give attention to, then you apply these incentives to that attention economy through platforms like AMPs, right? Or you continue to engage this attention through platforms like Noise. So, I think it's interesting to see also the evolution of platforms like Farcaster. Won't speak to Twitter because none of these things are truly integrated like things on Farcaster. But it's interesting to see how these things continue to develop to make up a new creator economy, which is to me, like personally, what's the most interesting thing is like, how can we continue to reward creators and how can creators continue to engage their audience, their fan base, their super fans in a much more meaningful way. And I think that there's just a lot of really awesome experiments that are happening right now to make that happen, to make that possible.
Yeah, that, like what you said about giving your content a bit of a nudge, I think is super important because as folks who work in Web 2, we do this as well, right? We have sponsored posts on Meta, we use Meta Ads Manager, and this is just decentralizing the manner in which this money goes out because instead of paying Meta to get a friend of mine to like something, you can pay someone directly to promote your thing out into a wider audience that you can curate. You can say, hey, this is about communication, about culture. I think Adrian's community really appreciates this. So you can select Adrian to be the one pushing it out for you. So could you tell us a little bit more about how you use these tools? What can people learn in the sense of being able to identify whether these tools are right for them and this move could be right for them? Adrian, could you speak to a little bit about the motivations about this? Motivations that can lead
I
to
would
one
just say
using
like,
these?
yeah, I mean, to answer your question, which is like advice for people to know what tools work for them, don't listen to anyone, just try them out. Like there's so many, the cost to try something is like pennies. Like it near zero. So you're not having to put in a big ad budget. Like they're just tons of tools. They're built permissionlessly from the ecosystem, like in a decentralized manner. So, and you could just try them. So I'm a huge fan of like, no one knows the outcome of anything. So just like run an experiment, try AMPs. Does it work for you? Great. Keep trying it. AMPs, for those that don't know, is it's the ability for you to pay to have people like and recast your posts on Farcaster permissionlessly. So it's like, and to your right, you said, Mark, it doesn't go to Farcaster, it goes directly. It's like through a complete, like it's through the AMPs app, but having nothing to do with Farcaster. And by the way, let's say AMP starts taking a fee and we don't like their fee, someone else can build another one and do it for a cheaper fee. So it's that's kind of the beauty of this like decentralized permissionless building ecosystem, which I love. I don't know. What did I'm like, my advice is don't listen to me. Go try. Just, in fact, stop listening to us right now and go on Farcaster and just try out some tools.
Fair. Like any other tools that you try outside of Farcaster that you were like, oh wow, this is super cool. Like cookies we just talked about, which is not Farcaster based, but like any other tools that either of you have tried that is more specific to like crypto in general. I don't want to be specific to Ethereum as well. I know we're supposed to celebrate the Ethereum birthday here, but it's more about like how do we get people and knowledgeable about the entire industry. So yeah, share more tools if you have.
Yeah, it's funny.
The one
If
that
you're
you like
asking
the most.
me, I'm pretty crypto pilled at this point. I
You
do
think?
Let's
use,
go.
yeah. I mean, I think that's why you brought us on, right? So I think
Yep.
today there's a lot of tools you can use. I mean, look, don't ignore traditional media. At the end of the day, we're talking about distribution, and Farcaster has a very, very, very small piece of that, right? Base, maybe just a little larger, but not that much more. Whatever content you're creating, don't forget that the whole point of this is to help educate people outside of our niche, outside of our very, very small circle. So when we are having these conversations, and I appreciate Adrian for having done this just now, don't forget to define these terms. I'm talking about amps, and Adrian, correctly so, defined what the hell was amps. So once we do I create this content and put it on chain, let's also grow or bring that attention to people who are on TikTok, people who are on YouTube, people on Instagram. One of the people that I got to shout out, because she is definitely one of my heroes, and I think many of us here will agree, Naomi, aka Afro Chicks, is a freaking superstar. She understood the assignment, has been creating a lot of content about crypto. Yes, she puts it on chain, but also she understands the value of putting it on Twitter, X, putting it on YouTube, putting it on TikTok, and we can see her content performing. So for me personally, it was kind of a no-brainer to invite her to be the keynote speaker at the Onchain Creator House, because I know that she is setting an example for all of us to follow in terms of understanding the balance between traditional media and on-chain media, and being able to leverage attention on both, but being able to more successfully monetize that attention, on the crypto rails.
Yeah, fantastic. Yep. Naomi is absolutely one of those folks, I think, who is really playing this game well. Fantastic in front of the camera, just speaks directly to the person, and I think the energy Naomi channels is incredible. So we're heading into the last stretch of our chat today. So for any folks who've just joined in, want to give you a quick reminder of what we're doing here. So we're going to celebrate 10 years of Ethereum over the next 10 weeks with spaces just like this. We're going to bring the brightest and the best of the Ethereum community over here and ask them the most pressing questions on our mind. Today is the creator special, where we have Humpty from Crypto Sapiens, one of the best newsletters in this space. If you are building content, networks, and talking to people, Humpty will let you cut right through that noise and get to the folks you need to be speaking to. And Adrian is an expert at tapping into culture on decentralized networks. We are in our little silos culturally in Web3, finding our little pockets, and Adrian is a master of just connecting all these and giving you the narratives that you need to really care about what's being built in this space. And for our next section, this one will be a little bit more philosophical, a little bit more open-ended. I want us to jam about, what can Web3 do better to tap into the soul of what we're building here. So I know we have hobbies and interests beyond this on-chain world, but through my experience on Farcaster, we have a little football group, we have banter, we make bets. We've brought the real world into our little on-chain space. So what other hobbies and interests do you think that we can do more to accommodate over here to spark that little bit more joy in Web3? Adrian seems to have
I
an answer.
I just hate that my answer is going to be Farcaster, because it's just so cringy and cliche that that's all I want to promote today. But one of the things I found most interesting about Farcaster is we don't just talk about crypto. We actually, and people have so many unique and very niche interests. And there have been a lot of people who have kind of onboarded their friends. I think what we found is if you come onto Farcaster not from a crypto background and not having a friend to kind of hold your hand, it's really hard. You do get lost. You don't know what but if you're not necessarily part of in crypto, but you have someone to hold your hand, you can find your people. So I can't, for me personally, and I'm just thinking of the photographers. on Farcaster. They're not even necessarily on, but just there's tons of like really, really good photographers, travel information, health and wellness. I mean, there's like an infinite. These are just some of the communities I know that I've kind of have really enjoyed. Oh, there's chefs on Farcaster that are posting their menus and kind of sharing what they're creating. And like, yeah, they're like crypto chefs, but what does that even mean? Like they own crypto? I don't even know. So they just, I think, and I don't know why Farcaster does this. I think because it's small enough that you can kind of find the niches, or it's attracting just nerds. Like it is the nerdiest in the best way, like just really curious, genuine, like people like nerd out on things. And I think that's great. But yeah, what are we doing? I think we do a great job on Farcaster of like reaching outside of crypto. But to Humpty, your point, we're still so small.
Yeah, the person who I onboarded yesterday, literally in her DMs after she woke up this morning and saw how viral that cast had gone, she was enthusiastic at the excitement around her just showing up, right? And my answer to her was, we are all just very nice nerds in here. Like we literally are geeking out about what we love, and we do it in public. And I really love that. And if I could add anything to what Adrian said, is just come as yourself. Don't come to try to pretend to be someone else or to try to, embody a persona that is not authentic. It will show, right? Come as yourself, bring all of your interests. And if there isn't a group that is leading those interests, lead them for yourself. To this point, and Dan will love that I keep saying this, but channels. That to me is how you build community on Farcaster. I realize that it's not a priority for the team, but I'm excited that when I did go a little crazy earlier this week about channels, he replied very kindly and said, hey, look, if we choose to, move on from channels, they will likely be decentralized, meaning anybody else can build on channels.
Genuine.
So that we can build those communities on Farcaster. Sorry, Adrian.
Humpty, channels are coming. Channels will be there in the future. It's just not the priority today.
I love my channel.
Everybody,
I hope they come back. So yeah, I'm with you. Like I'm hoping. This is not hope rather than expectation, but absolutely.
By the way, I stopped using channels because it was like, but we should all just go back, use the channels, and then a little bit vote with your feet. Vote.
Absolutely.
I just had Humpty, you just kind of had this thing, like a thought that crystallized in my head for me. And in terms of like Farcaster, and people may or may not know this joke, but there's the Christian rap joke, which is like from the people on, the crypto Twitter people don't want to come to Farcaster because we're too genuine and nice. And, and Twitter's the real arena. That's where the ideas are, right? Twitter's where is the arena of ideas, and it's, but I think it's not about Twitter versus Farcaster, like any Web2 kind of like corporate network. The only way you monetize is through, like you actually can't monetize, right, directly through the platform. You can get sponsorships outside, but so the way you monetize is with audience. The higher your engagement, the higher your numbers. That's the only thing of value, is how many followers do you have and what are your engagement metrics. So it's probably not surprising when you look at, show me the incentive and I'll show you the behavior. We're humans, like we love looking at a car wreck and we love looking at drama. So you tend to see a race to some bad behavior. And like, I don't know, that doesn't draw. So on Farcaster, right? Are there some engagement farming? Sure. Right. But when you're voting with your eyeballs, but because you're also have the ability to kind of like with this built-in money, like I might be stuck looking at a video I don't want to look at on TikTok, but I'm not going to give them $5. I'm not going to be like, yeah, here's my money too. Like I'm giving. And because that's all completely baked into crypto-based rails, the behavior you see, I think, can tend to be more aspirational. It's like, yeah, this is the behavior our parents want us to behave like. Like it's a little more civilized because that actually, the incentive is there. So it's not just, I'm I'm looking at the crap because I can't turn, it's like you got to look at it, but I'm not giving you my money. And look at the people you
I'm not
are. So
tipping the
I think
shipwreck. Yeah.
I think so. I don't know. I just thought of that just now, but I think there's something there that's probably why you might be getting better outcomes on a crypto network.
That's amazing. No, that's amazing. So I just want to call out the audience for one last time before we end, and like pass it to Mark for more like last questions. If in the audience, if you guys have any questions, put it in the comments. We have a friend who's just putting it in our feed as well. One, two, if you're really liking and enjoying it, let's push this number higher. Please like, share, retweet right now. Let's get people more into it. Also, if you haven't followed this channel, because we don't have any other way for us to reach out to you, uh, make sure that you follow and put the notification bell on so that when we go live tomorrow, or sorry, on Monday, same time, you'll get put it in the context as well. So if you have questions, put it in there. At least you can say GM or hello, happy birthday to Ethereum to get the conversation going. And back to you, Marv.
Yes, please. So we are celebrating 10 years of Ethereum. So could you please tell me the one aspect of Ethereum that you personally would like to celebrate? We can start with Adrian.
Oh, smart contracts. I'm going to celebrate the ability that anybody can write a smart contract in code, deploy it onto the world computer, and it will run forever and ever and ever. And you pay your gas fee when you deploy it, but you do not pay ongoing fees to AWS or GCP or Azure. There's no hosting fees. It is permanent, immutable code that will make a promise and it will do what you coded it to do forever and ever and ever. And other people can build on top of it. And it's all permanent and open and written in code. And it's it's permissionless, meaning anyone can do it. You do not need to be part of like the core Ethereum team to write a contract.
I love it. Like just for the context, like WETH, like WETH we call, which is a wrapper for Ethereum. It's one smart contract that is literally based for all the DeFi ecosystem around there. So, like what you just said, it in practice. So such a practical answer. Thank you, Adrian.
And Humpty, anything in particular that you would like to celebrate that's worthy of the 10-year celebration that you believe is worthy of it?
I'm going to just rewind maybe 5 minutes. You were talking about channels. We were talking about channels. I want to remind people that the official Channels Day birthday is on June 7th. And I may or may not be working on something to remind people how cool channels are. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to be talking about it on Farcaster. I do have a co-conspirator on Farcaster. Resipsa and I have been meeting over coffee to discuss what this will look like. In terms of Ethereum, I can tell you without a certain of a doubt, nope, that's not how it goes. But I can tell you with all certainty, without a shadow of a doubt, that's what I meant to say. See, English is my second language, people.
It's all good.
When I was building on Tron, as the first blockchain that I built on, which was basically a copy of Ethereum, right, as EVM, we always look to Ethereum for inspiration. And the reason for that is that a lot of innovation happened on Ethereum from its beginning. And a lot of creativity and innovation happened on Ethereum to make it the home of DeFi, to make NFTs become something bigger than just an ERC20 or ERC 721 or the many different ERC standards we have for NFTs now. So if I celebrate anything about Ethereum every day and into the future, is its creativity and the people who are on Ethereum who are incredibly creative, whether they're building and they're developers or they're creators and they're using on-chain media, if they're doing it on Base or on the mother chain directly. That's what I celebrate every day. And I do it in practice and I do it by promoting it to other people like me as well.
Amazing. It is this very creativity that I'm absolutely grateful for. Like, we have all these builders, but pragmatically built foundations, and then the creativity can just run wild. Like, I'm all here for it, and looking forward to seeing what all the creators can learn from what you folks have said today and deploy their own ideas. So, any final closing words from both of our guests? Anything that you'd like to plug? What are you building right now? Is there something that our listeners today can look forward to you releasing over the next week, month, quarter? You choose the time interval. The floor is yours. I think, Adrian, you're not muted, so you can go first.
I am never muted. I will
Well
um,
said.
obviously plug GM Farcaster. It is a live stream Farcaster news show. So if you want to stay updated on what's happening on Farcaster, check us out. We're streaming on Twitter, YouTube, all of our episodes everywhere you get podcasts. I am just launching a mini app. A mini app are little applications that run within the Farcaster context. So you can launch applications without leaving the feed. And the mini app will let you watch GM Farcaster without leaving the feed. So you can check out our live stream without having to leave.
That's amazing.
And
That's it.
Humpty, anything for the audience?
Yeah, I don't think we talked enough about Adrian's developer chops. Adrian's built a lot of really cool things. And I know you were involved with the Bar Hack event in New York as well. So definitely follow Adrian. They're very helpful, not just in the creative space, but also in the development space. Also follow GM Farcaster. I would second that because I follow them regularly and I'm inspired by the work that they do. In terms of
Humpty, start shilling your stuff now, please.
Oh, sure. I'm getting
No
it.
more. No
I
more
wanna
GM
recognize-
Farcaster.
Sure.
It's your turn.
So yeah, just follow me on Farcaster. You know, I'm at humpty@humpty.eth. I'm gonna, like I said, be talking about what the official Channels Day celebration will look like. Continuing to build on the Onchain Creator House, which was, like I said, a concept that we started earlier this year in Denver, continued in New York, and may or may not be coming to Argentina with DevConnect. So that'll be fun to see how that evolves. But as well, trying to meet creators where they are everywhere around the world. So we might not just be going to Argentina, but we might be going to 2 other countries as well. So stay tuned.
Amazing.
You know, connect with me on Farcaster, and I'm occasionally on Twitter at Humpty0x as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Adrian and Humpty, for joining us. You are incredible guests.
Thank you, guys.
Folks, please give them a follow. We will be publishing all the socials that both Humpty and Adrian have mentioned in this chat on our blog. So be sure to visit the website and look at our uploads once all that's done. But we want to thank you all for joining us today. We've got plenty more weeks of lots of deep chats with top level folks from all over the Ethereum ecosystem. So make sure you're following, make sure you tell your friends, and we really look forward to seeing you on Monday. So if you have any thoughts, shoot us a message in the DM or comments, and we're glad to take on all suggestions. So this is Chinmay and Marv and Humpty and Adrian signing off from the chat today. You folks take care.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
And